I don't think you know your primary colors. That's not meant to be an insult, but it is probably true because recently I asked 50 of my friends what are the primary colors, and I got 5 different answers. See, most of them responded with red, yellow, and blue, like a lot of them. The only problem is, that's not correct. Well, sort of. So today, I want to show you the true primary colors and explain why you have been lied to. Let's go. So there are actually 2 sets of primary colors. One set you're actually looking at right now, and that's because inside every screen there's a number of pixels all just displaying red, green, and blue, and your brain interprets that as a whole lot of different colors. I got some cool footage of a TV at work using a camcorder and an extra lens that I found. But if you want to see a really cool video on this, you should go check out the Slow-Mo Guys video. I just think that's really cool. But why is it red, green, and blue? And for that, we're gonna have to look into the eye. So how do our eyes perceive light? It's a good question, and I'm probably gonna skim over most of it, but I wanna go into how the eye sort of works, okay? So we have an eye, and we have these different cells. We have rods and cones. Rods we're gonna ignore for today, but cones, there's 3 different types of them. We have red, green, and blue. But Joel, what do you mean red, green, and blue? Well, basically, each one is sensitive to a different part of the light spectrum. You see, blue looks like this, green looks like that, and then red has that one. Then when we add them all together, we get a graph that looks like this. And so our eye interprets different wavelengths of light by different amount of excitation of these individual cells. And so different amount of excitation of these cells, our brain interprets as these different colors. How cool is that? And so, for all intents and purposes, we're just going to talk about the eye like it has red, green, and blue receptors. And so this is how additive color mixing works. Additive color mixing is how a TV works. And by adding different amounts of each color, we can actually create any color. And I think this is just so cool. So that's the first set of primary colors. But what about the second? Well, before we get to the next set of primary colors, there's something you have to understand. This is the sun, and this is a prism that I'm using to split the white light from the sun into a rainbow. Now, I only mention this because you need to understand that white light from the sun is not the same as white light from a screen. You see, white light from a screen, as we mentioned before, consists of red, green, and blue, but white light from the sun consists of every color of the rainbow. And so, when sunlight hits an object, it's actually absorbing every color of light and only reflecting the one that we see. So this is reflecting orange light. Okay, objects absorb color, but what if we want to make our own colors? What do we need to do then? Okay, it's finally time to introduce you to the next set of primary colors, and they've actually been hiding under our nose the whole time. Magenta, yellow, and cyan. You see, these are the same colors that your printer uses to produce any color image, but I see it ticking over in your head going, aren't the primary colors of paint red, yellow, and blue? And that is actually a misconception, and we will get into that. But for now, I need you to understand why magenta, cyan, and yellow are the primary colors. I actually made a little animation for this. So in order for something to be yellow, it has to allow red and green light through and has to block all of the blue light. This is also the same for magenta and cyan. So magenta is made up of red and blue light. So only red and blue light can get through, and it blocks all the green light. And cyan blocks all the red light. That way only green and blue can get through. By varying the amount of magenta, cyan, and yellow, we can absorb different amounts of red, green, and blue light, creating a final color. I have a really good demonstration for you. Okay, are you ready for something cool? Okay, so this is an image that I printed off of my printer. Remember that printers use cyan, magenta, and yellow to make any image. So this image is actually just made up of cyan, magenta, and yellow. Let me prove it to you. Oh, that's so bright. So here I have that same image broken down into its cyan, magenta, and yellow components. You'll see first, just like in our animation, that the yellow one hardly has any yellow on the top because we need to let that blue sky through, because yellow blocks blue sky. So we don't want yellow where the blue is meant to get through. So next comes magenta. And so magenta blocks green light. So you'd expect there to be less magenta ink in the areas of the image where there's meant to be green coming through. And that's what we see. The grass is a lot lighter than the rest of the image because we need that green to come through. And then finally, we have the cyan image. And so cyan, it blocks red light. And so you'd expect there to be less cyan ink wherever we need red to come through. And that is like on the barn and in all of the wood parts. So as you can see, when we add all of these together, we get an image that looks almost the same as the one I printed out earlier. How cool is that? Now, in reality, a printer actually uses another color. Well, it's not really a color, it's just a shade. It's black, and black can be made using all of the different colors. And it's also just so we don't waste all of our colored ink for the black sections. So we can make that same image using 4 different layers, this time a magenta, cyan, yellow, and black layer. And then when we stack all of them on top of each other, you'll see that we have basically the same image. How flippin' cool is that? Okay, I hope I've convinced you that these are the primary colors of subtractive color mixing, or as other people call it, pigments. And so now it's time to address that misconception that 72% of people seem to have. So why are red, yellow, and blue taught as the primary colors? Well, it's because they sort of are. Well, at least they were. You see, these colors have been the foundation of color theory for a very long time. Mainly because of their availability. You see, we get red from iron ore or rust, we get yellow from clays, and we get blues from like copper and other minerals. Even the printing press used red, yellow, and blue as their primary colors when it first took off. You see, you can actually make a lot of colors from red, yellow, and blue, especially if you include black and white to lighten and darken those colors. Cyan, magenta, and yellow are just better versions of red, yellow, and blue. As evidence, the printing press even changed to cyan, magenta, and yellow once those colors became more available. So there you have it. The primary colors, red, green, and blue because that's the way our eye works, and then cyan, magenta, and yellow because that's what absorbs these primary colors. It's pretty cool. I hope you learned something today, and I really look forward to seeing you in the next one. If you like this, please consider subscribing and check out the links in the description below. Thanks.